Welcome back for part 7 of this mini-series tutorial. In today's video, creativity gets a glamour look. For glamour title, I will demonstrate two similar animated versions, with some subtle differences. Let's start creating. For this title I will select a different font that goes well with this title meaning. I select Twinkle font, and if you'd like to use the same font I will leave a link in the description below where you can get this font. It is a free font. First I will increase the scale at 150, and I will lock the text element for now. Next, I will add a rectangle from the Shapes menu. I will reduce the opacity a little bit, to be able to see through. And I'll use the same orange color as in previous videos. Now, I will resize the rectangle. I will zoom in, matching with the text height. I will resize this rectangle furthermore, and what I'm trying to do is, to cover the first half of the word with this rectangle. For the other half of the word, I will need another rectangle, so, I will duplicate this one, and I will drag it to the right, to cover the other half of the word. I will adjust it to fit the letters. I will move the middle point where these two rectangles meet, to where I appreciate it is the actual half of the word. I will work now to animate this rectangle on the left side, and to achieve the visual effect we saw at the beginning of this video, let's just see it one more time. I will need to use the linear gradient, in the color panel. I will set a very light gray color, almost white, for the first color of this linear gradient, and I will reduce the opacity of this color, right about here. The second color of this gradient, will be the same orange color I was using for previous titles. Now, I will grab this white dot, this is a handle of the gradient, and I will adjust the proportion of the colors of this gradient. I will position this white handle, right about at the half length of the rectangle. I will hide the text element from the canvas, only temporary, to better concentrate on animating these gradient rectangles. I will change the rotation point to middle left. I am still working on the left rectangle. And I will add a custom animation. I select scale, and with the playhead before the animation, I will set the X scale at 0. Now, because I need to change the rotation point, right on the opposite side, I will need to make a copy of this rectangle. I will remove the animation of this one that I've just created. I will drag its starting point, right at the end of the animation of the first rectangle. Here on the timeline, I will bring this one below the other one, and I will adjust this one too. I will make it short like this, just the length of its added animation. Just as I said, I will set the rotation point, opposite on the middle right. Now, I will add the same custom animation as for the other one. I will set again, scale. The difference here will be, that I will position the playhead over the animation, at the end, and I will set the X scale at 0. I am making this one shorter, as long as the animation is, and I will duplicate once. Now, I will drag it below, right here. And I need to change the direction of scaling, placing the playhead before the animation. I will set the X scale at 0. And on the other end, at 53. I will select this one on the top in the timeline, and I will duplicate one more time, and I will drag it below the other three. Again, I will need to change the scaling direction for this one too. This time at the starting point I will have 53, and 0 at the other end. You can see that I have 4 rectangles, and all 4 have a scaling animation. First, is scaling up to the right, second is scaling down to the right, third one is scaling up to the left, and the last one is scaling down to the left. Now, remember that for the first rectangle, before I added the custom animation, I've changed the rotation point to the middle left, and all the other 3 duplicates, kept the same rotation point. In the right side of the canvas, I have another rectangle, and I want this one, to mirror the one we just completed to animate. Therefore, I will start by changing its rotation point to the middle right. Next, let me just fast forward while I repeat the same animation settings. The difference will be that everything must be animated mirroring the left side. After I finished animating, I will go and align one under the other, and I will make sure they all have the same time length, both the rectangles and their animations. Having done that, I will reposition them one after another to their original position. If I go and drag with my mouse slowly to see how it looks, you might notice that something is still missing. I need that solid orange color to be like the leading color and that light gray with opacity to be like the tail. So, to do that, I will change the orientation of that linear gradient for each of the 4 rectangles, according to their direction. You also might have noticed that for the rectangles on the right side of the canvas, I haven't yet set any gradient, which I will do in the following settings. Please just follow the color settings, play and pause the video if necessary. So, let's just do these settings. You might find it difficult to do all the color settings by following the video. That's why it is better to understand the order and the animation. The animation is scaling. The rectangle scales horizontally, due to the fact that I've changed the rotation point, and I've only changed the X scale value. You can see here that in between the first and the second rectangles, both for the ones on the left side of the canvas and for the ones in the right, I have a solid orange color in the center of the long rectangle. And in between the third and the fourth rectangles, I have a solid orange color on the right and left edges of the long rectangle. I have turned on the visibility of the text element. I will position its starting point right here, under the last rectangle. And we need to animate this word. I will add a custom animation. I will set scale, and by unlocking the scale values, I will set 0 for the starting point. I will also add opacity, and set the opacity veil at 0 for the starting point. I will move it a little to the left, to have it enter a little bit earlier, and I will adjust it a little bit. Selecting the last rectangle, I will duplicate once, and I will move it here to the right. And after I remove its custom animation, I go to Settings, and change the linear grading for the solid orange color. I also want to make sure I increase the opacity all the way up to 100. Next, I will resize this rectangle and make it like a typing cursor. Then, I will duplicate this cursor. I will drag it up here to the other group. And, on the canvas I will position it at the end of the word. I will move them a little to the left. I want these cursors to enter a little bit earlier. And make them a little shorter like so. I select the text element. And let's add another animation property for a nicer effect. Let's add text spacing. Having the playhead at the end of the animation, I will set the letter spacing at 200. Now, because I've spaced out the word, I will need to reposition the so-called text cursors. To make the visual even better, for this rectangle that I call a text cursor, I will go and add a custom animation. I will select position. And the starting position, I will try to set exactly where that last gradient rectangle ends. I will repeat the same animation for the cursor on the right. I also need to make sure that these cursors are perfectly aligned on the timeline, as well as their animations. Now, let's have a preview. For the exit of this title, I will add another custom animation, and this time it will be text spacing and scale. Again, I am placing the playhead at the end of the animation, and I zoom out to be able to adjust the final letter spacing and scale size of the title. Letter spacing, I'll set at 2000, and for the scale value, I will lock it first and I will set it at 400. And, I will also need to add another animation property. I also need it to fade out, so I'll add opacity, and the final value for opacity will be 0. Now, let's have another preview. I only need to make the final animation a little bit shorter, so it will run faster. And we just finished the first version of Glamour title animation. Do practice to create this effect and I will wait for you on the next video where we'll animate a second version of the Glamour title. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to be notified for future tutorials of how to create amazing motion graphics, and I'll see you in the next video.